VSiN Weekend Morning Line on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Hour number 2 of the VSiN Weekend Morning Line. I'm your host, Tim Murray, live from the Circa Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas, continuing coverage of the 2 NBA playoff games, 2 Stanley Cup playoff games throughout the hour, throughout the show. That's what we do here, getting you ready for everything you need to know on a Sunday, on a Mother's Day. Make sure you thank your moms, thank your wife, whatever it may be. But, you know, in the background, you could throw a game or two on. Just you know, keep tabs. Because I imagine they're going to want to sit down and watch the Denver Nuggets and Oklahoma City Thunder this afternoon. Why wouldn't they? I mean, it's going to be a fun game there in the Mile High City. But we will talk more about Denver and OKC, as well as Indiana and Cleveland, coming up in less than 15 minutes. My guy, Rick Kamla, will join us here to give us his best bets for today and maybe take a look back a little bit at what we saw yesterday as well. Coming up bottom of the hour, Jonathan Davis, our NHL betting analyst, will join us and give us his thoughts on the 2 games on the ice. Also in hour 3, Nick Alberga, live from Sunrise, Florida, as his Maple Leafs try to avoid having that series even up at 2 games apiece. A tough one for the Maple Leafs, having a 2-0 lead, 3-1 lead in Game 3. Did trail 4-3 and ultimately tied it up, but lost in overtime from Brad Marchand. Once again, too, last night, what a finish between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Edmonton Oilers. Your adjusted series price right now in that particular series with the Edmonton Oilers still up 2-1. They still find themselves as minus 260 favorites. The Maple Leafs, a ever so slight favorite in that series. And if you believe that defending Stanley Cup champions will come back and win the series, maybe win today, you can get plus money right now on the Florida Panthers at DraftKings at plus 105. And then the series that fascinates me the most, to be honest, of the 4, and it doesn't involve my Capitals, who unfortunately are now down 2-1 against the Hurricanes. The Stars and Jets, we saw Connor Hellebuyck maybe turn back into the vintage Connor Hellebuyck, or maybe it was 1 game. We'll see how it all plays out. A bit of a disastrous performance on the road. Think about this. Connor Hellebuyck against the St. Louis Blues, they played 3 games on the road. He was pulled in all 3. Where are they today? They're in Dallas. So we will see. After a shutout, 21 saves in Game 2. What do we see from Connor Hellebuyck? What do we see from Jake Ottinger as he got pulled in Game 2 north of the border against the Winnipeg Jets? So I'm really excited to watch that one tonight. That will be the early game, 4:30 Eastern. Dallas right now around, we'll call it minus 130. Favorite against the Winnipeg Jets. Total sitting at 5.5 there. Evenly juiced both ways. And if you think it's going to be a low-scoring first period, under 1.5 is at minus 115. But much more on what to see on the ice coming up with Jonathan Davis, who just texted me as we're talking with his best bets. So we'll get those for you as well. But I did want to hit on this, as yesterday we got the breaking news that Derek Carr was hanging it up for his career with that shoulder injury at 34 years old, 11 seasons in the NFL. He's hanging him up. He is going to retire. And because of that, and because of the official nature of it, even though I was talking to Matt Brown, of course, co-host of Ready, Set, Bet, which follows this show, as we were kind of 2 ships passing in the night, because Matt and I both love betting the NFL draft, both loving this Offensive Rookie of the Year market, trying to find those rogue numbers. And, you know, right after the draft, we talked about a couple of spots that I liked. Caleb Johnson there in Pittsburgh, and then RJ Harvey, in Denver. And yesterday, I ended up grabbing a little bit of Tyler Shuck because I anticipated the market to move. But the funny part about that market move was that, were we all expecting Derek Carr to be sidelined the entire year anyways? But yet we needed the officialness of the announcement of Derek Carr's retirement for that market to move as drastically as it did. DraftKings 22-1 down to 10-1. Circa was, I think, 15-1 down to 10-1. Westgate Superbook 16-1 down to 10-1. FanDuel down to 12-1. So we saw the market react with that news. It isn't always a quarterback who wins this award, and right now the betting favorite is a running back. It is Ashton Genty at around plus 230, depending on what book you look at, the running back for the Las Vegas Raiders. And I don't really push back on that. I think he's going to have a phenomenal year. He's going to be the main guy, obviously, for the Las Vegas Raiders. But I think the question will always continue to be, and here at VSiN, I'll just say this. We will talk Shedeur Sanders because it will be important throughout the summer months of whether to bet on or stay away, right, when it comes to Shedeur Sanders. We're not going to do as much as other networks, which I'm sure will be grasping at it as much as possible. But he did speak yesterday, as did Dillon Gabriel. Remember, Dillon Gabriel was drafted ahead of Shedeur Sanders. Now, whether or not you believe that Dillon Gabriel should have been or will make the roster ahead of Shedeur Sanders, maybe they both make the roster, we'll see how that plays out. But we're going to play you two clips here. We're going to start with Shedeur Sanders. And as I joked with the guys in the back, you kind of laugh at when you hear Shedeur talk at media availability because you know what he's going to be asked. He's going to be asked about the disrespect and all of that. So here's Shedeur Sanders yesterday after rookie minicamp.
Like, my job here isn't to prove people wrong. Like, I prove myself right. And I fully have self-belief, and what those people say, that's just their opinion. So I don't truly care. They don't really live in my mental space about that type of stuff.
All right. He's here to prove people wrong. That's fine. Look, if I were Shedeur Sanders, I would have been bummed about being dropped to the 5th round when the expectation was maybe I could go. At one point in time, you do realize this, at one point in time, it was heavily juiced, but you could have bet over under 3.5. And he ended up going in the 5th round. I mean, we saw that betting market drop like a rock, but never in my wildest imaginations. And we talked about, I took a couple flyers. I had the Pittsburgh Steelers at, I forget the number, maybe 6-1 to be where he would go. And I also had bet on the Raiders as well after day one. Ultimately, Lance with the Cleveland Browns, as I hit my microphone here. Shedeur Sanders 28-1 right now at DraftKings to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. We'll put a pin in that because I want to play you what Dillon Gabriel had to say, because Dillon Gabriel is going to be kind of the lost piece, I would say, in this whole situation brewing there in Cleveland. It's going to be a lot of focus on Shedeur, understandably so. But I don't know if it'll ultimately be just a trivia question. Who was the quarterback drafted ahead of Shedeur Sanders by his own team? Or maybe Dillon Gabriel, there's a reason that the Cleveland Browns drafted him in the 3rd round and Shedeur in the 5th. But this is Dillon Gabriel, former Oregon quarterback, talking about, it's a little bit disrespectful to talk about this quarterback room in the way that you are.
I think the more questions I get asked like that, it just divides the team. And for me, I think, we're in a room full of not just us, but Kenny, Joe, and Deshaun. And for us, we know how important a healthy QB room is, but also, a team that you want to be a part of, and how do you create an environment every single day where everyone can be at their best? And that's just pushing one another, which talent naturally does. And, naturally it's healthy,
I thought that was a really good answer. I thought it was really interesting there from Dillon Gabriel, who played a lot of college football, right? Started his career at UCF, went to Oklahoma, finished up at Oregon, and now he's a member of the Cleveland Browns. I have no idea how that room is going to be played out. I really don't. All I know is that Deshaun Watson's not playing this year. Outside of that, who the hell knows? It's anyone's guess. We had Jonathan Peterlin on the show from 92.3 The Fan a couple weeks ago, and his prediction was that Kenny Pickett would ultimately be the odd man out, would not make the roster. I would say if you had to bet on it, one of the two veterans, Flacco or Pickett, won't be on the opening day roster. And more than likely, both of the rookies will be. But I want to discuss the Rookie of the Year odds, and we won't belabor the point. But Shedeur Sanders at FanDuel is 25-1, at DraftKings is 28. Dillon Gabriel at FanDuel is 80-1, and at DraftKings is at 60-1. I don't really think there's a bet to be made on either one. I would say if I had to make one bet, it would probably be Dillon Gabriel at 80-1, because everything that we gather it's going to be an open competition. And you can roll your eyes and say, you're crazy. Shedeur Sanders is more talented than Dillon Gabriel. Okay. But there's a reason they drafted him in the third round. Look, the NFL doesn't play games. And Shedeur Sanders may have a better career. This may all be one of the dumbest things we've ever seen, how so many teams passed on him. I think he's going to be good. I actually think the offense that he's stepping into is going to be fitting to his skill set quite a bit with Kevin Stefanski and his previous history with quarterbacks that aren't more fleet of foot, which is what Shedeur Sanders is. He's more of a pocket passer, precision passer. And you look at the success that he's had with, a Kirk Cousins, for example. But I don't know, at 25-1, like it's funny to think that yesterday you could have got Tyler Shuck at 22-1 at DraftKings and Shedeur Sanders at around 28-1, when Shedeur Sanders at this point in time, right, is fourth on the depth chart. Now, as bettors, we're trying to find that value. So if you believe that Shedeur Sanders could ultimately win this job at a camp, which seems possible, unlikely, but possible, maybe you look that way. But I would say as of right now, because of who he is, because of the stature that he has, in my opinion, 25 or 28-1, it's just not long enough odds for a quarterback that, as of right now, is the fourth string quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Let's talk more NBA. We got two big ones today. Do the Oklahoma City Thunder bounce back after losing on Friday night in overtime to the Denver Nuggets? Rick Kamla, he'll join us next. It is the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
You're tuned in to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
We keep it rolling here on a Sunday. Once again, happy Mother's Day to all of you out there. I know we have a big following from the ladies, so happy Mother's Day. Or just a reminder, it is Mother's Day, so make sure you thank the mothers in your life if you're out there tuning in on Sirius XM channel 158, watching us on YouTube TV or NESN Plus, or our terrestrial affiliates who we're so grateful for all across the country. On Mother's Day, we will sit back, we'll thank our mothers in our lives, and then we'll say, we want to watch some basketball. And to help us break down what we're going to watch and what we should bet on today, bring in our good friend Rick Kamla. You can follow on Twitter at Rick Kamla Sports and check out Sports Ethos as well. So, Rick, let's jump right into it. Coming up in a handful of hours in Denver, we got the Nuggets and we've got the Oklahoma City Thunder. I just kind of want to almost go blank canvas with you on this one because there's so many fascinating morsels regarding this series, this game. The Joker doesn't play great on Friday night. The Nuggets still find a way to win, but SGA doesn't play great. He's got a big old smile walking off the floor. They're not ready for the moment. The Nuggets are champions. There's so many interesting storylines for this game. The Thunder down 2-1, 6.5-point favorites today. What are you looking at in this one?
A response from OKC. Tim, what's up? Hello to all the moms out there. Hopefully you win all your bets today. It was a great setup, Tim. It all comes down to SGA. I mean, this was the MVP showdown, and, SGA shot 7 of 22 in game 3. They scored 104 points. None of this is going to get it done. And they know that. And Jalen Williams was fantastic in game 3. But what's the trend that's developed here? We've seen mighty teams lose games and have a big response on the road. Boston did it against New York. Cleveland did it against Indiana. And now I think OKC is going to do it today at Denver. The line is dreadful at 6.5. But Tim, and this remains undefeated for me personally in these playoffs. When I saw Cleveland -1.5 at Indiana, right? Going into game 3, we didn't yet know if Mobley, Garland, and Hunter would play. I'm like, what? How? Okay. So anytime there's like a crazy nutty point spread like that, for me, no matter how illogical it is, it always wins. And so I'm kind of looking at that OKC thing, like 6.5, really? Like, to me, I don't know. It feels like 2.5, 3.5, right? Like these teams are evenly matched, all that kind of stuff. It's at Denver. OKC, frankly, has been kind of lame in 2 of the 3 games, right? So, like, how? Okay, so, but I'm going with it. I think OKC. I don't know how the hell they're going to cover 6.5, but I think they're going to be the winning side, and that's the way I'm going to go today.
Yeah, so I'll give you. I'll do my best bets officially later on here in the show, but for me, it's funny. We just talked about it last hour. You look at that 6.5, you're a little bit spooked by it. I totally understand that. I'm the same way. You could get creative. You could, do a money line parlay or something like that. For me, I think we're going to see a really strong effort out of the gates. I'm going to lay $1.50 here. I'm going to do the double result, lead at the half, win the game for Oklahoma City. So that's the way I'm going to go about betting this game, because I do expect a response here from Oklahoma City. And, I thought it was interesting, and we played the clip of David Adelman from, post game on Friday, where he was talking about, the quick turnaround. And you're looking at a team in Denver that's a little bit older. Michael Porter Jr. played exceptionally well with that shoulder injury. And I don't want to say this is going to be a full-on like Steve Kerr Game 5 of the Houston series, but it does kind of feel like, hey, we did our job. We won a game here in Denver. I don't know, Rick. Maybe I'm putting too much stock in this, but it does feel like, hey, we know they're going to come out, with fisticuffs here. And that's why I don't know if it's going to be a blowout, but I could see right out of the gates a pretty strong effort from OKC.
I mean, I like the way you're attacking it. I don't know what SGA's point prop is. It's probably 32.5, 33.5. I mean, I bet he's over that number. I don't know, 3 times in the playoffs, right? Like it's just been a really good bet to go under SGA, and it's not an anti-SGA thing. It's I mean, that was right at his scoring average for the regular season, but I mean that, you're cooking, all of these horrible teams scoring 30 every game. I'm not diminishing anything. I'm not one of these guys that bangs on SGA for being a foul merchant and all that kind of stuff. Get to the line, get your points, get them however the hell you can. If you exploit the rules, you exploit the rules. I'm fine with it. But some folks may want to look in that direction, and obviously he can always go massive for a 45 or a 50. But that just hasn't been the way it's going. Frankly, he's been a little bit disappointing and underwhelming in these playoffs. So I'm kind of looking at the under on SGA.
Yeah, 32.5 is the number right now for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, coming off the 18-point performance in game number 3. We're talking to Rick Kamla, courtesy of our Progressive Guest Line, helping us break down the NBA action today. Maybe look ahead to tomorrow a little bit as well. You could follow him at Rick Kamla Sports Ethos. Make sure to check out that website as well. Let's go to the nightcap, where the Cleveland Cavaliers showed some life. They get some injury help with the return of DeAndre Hunter. Darius Garland plays his first time in the postseason. We also get Mobley back, and impressive performance. Spida Mitchell has been out of his mind in this series. I mean, the performance he had in game 2 just had to been so gutting for them not to be able to get that win after 48 from him, as shorthanded as they were. But they're down 2-1, and another situation, right? We've got Denver as a home dog, and now we've got Indiana as a home dog. What do we expect to see tonight there in Indianapolis?
I mean, I'm going to take the points with the home team here. Indiana's really, really good. And Cleveland, look, that was a human nature game, right? You had Indiana was up 2-0. They exhaled a little bit. And then you had Cleveland getting 3 very, very important players back. And so you had a boost for them, and, their season was on the line and all this kind of stuff. So that was a human nature game that I think, like we talked about, like Cleveland was -1.5. I think they went up at -2.5. And it was like, how? Okay, boom, they blast them out of the yard. So all that stuff was I thought, pretty easy to see. To me, I don't know who's going to win this game, but I think Indiana might win this game. Right? Like, they're at home. They played like garbage. Halliburton was just ugly, gross in game 3. He was fantastic. I mean, I love the dude. I'm just saying, like, his performance was pitiful. But games 1 and 2, I mean, he performed miracles. Okay, so I'm kind of expecting a bounce back from them, Tim. I will take the 5.5 with Indiana, and I'll rock that way. I'll tell you this: whoever wins this game is going to win this series. If Cleveland wins, and gets back on serve, going back home, they're gonna ultimately win this thing. And obviously, if Indiana goes up 3-1, they're in great shape. This is a huge game tonight.
As we look ahead to tomorrow and what we saw yesterday, which was the Celtics, they went up 20, Rick, and they actually held on to a 20-point lead. It was a miracle for the Boston Celtics. But I'm curious your perspective of what we've seen so far in this series because, folks who watch ball, who know the sport, you watch these 3 games, you're like, how the hell are the Knicks up 2-1? Now, give them credit for the way they closed out. You've got Jalen Brunson, who is as clutch as it gets. And, they've had big performances from their role players. Josh Hart, I know, played well in game 2. But moving forward here in this series with another game at Madison Square Garden tomorrow night, are you expecting Boston to take over this series moving forward, Rick? Or are you expecting a little bit more Knick magic at some point here?
Yeah, this is one, Tim, where like we've been talking about this, and I feel like I have good reads on these other series. Like, I don't know. This has been a wild series. Game 1, Boston's up 20. New York is completely lifeless. They're a carcass on the side of the road. And they come back and win that game. And look, to me, Boston sucks at home, Tim. We have talked about this in the regular season, in the playoffs. They lose twice to Detroit. They lose twice to New York. They cannot win a home game. You get them on the road, and they're world beaters, okay? That, to me, is what's really going on here. And, people were banging on Tatum and all this kind of stuff. I'm over it, dude. The guy's a champion. The guy's a first-ballot Hall of Famer walking into the Hall of Fame. He's going to have 15 All-Stars at the end of his career. Like, give me a break. Jason Tatum's a stud. We expect excellence like at all times from all these people. It's ridiculous. But Tim, I don't know. Okay. I'll go Boston because of the road thing. Okay. And because they know you sink into a 3-1, you're probably dead. So we're going to get a great effort from Boston. And like I said, they're more comfortable, more productive, more effective, more successful on the road than they are at home. So I'll rock with Boston tomorrow night.
Rick, always appreciate the insight, man. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, Tim, have a great weekend.
There he is, my guy, Rick Kamla. Always appreciate his insight at Rick Kamla Sports there, courtesy of our Progressive Guest Line. Folks, guess what's next weekend? The Preakness. Bet the Preakness with First Bet and get rewarded. New customers can use promo code VSiN200 to score a 20% rebate on all wagers for the first 60 days up to $200. That's win or lose, you get paid. Download First Bet app today or visit first.com/bet. The promo code VSiN200.
You're tuned in to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
We keep it rolling here on a Sunday morning. Tim Murray live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. 2 NBA playoff games today, 2 games on the ice. These playoffs have just been remarkable. When you think about the NBA, we were just talking about it with Rick Kamla. We've seen 20-point leads get thrown to the wayside 5 times already. We saw it in back-to-back games with the Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks. And then 2-goal leads mean nothing, apparently. And we'll talk more about that with our next guest, Jonathan Davis, who joins us courtesy of our Progressive Guest Line. You can read all his work over at VSiN.com. He's been doing awesome work for us all year long. And JD, you were just talking about it, and I want to bring your stat to light because we've seen it in the NBA. These blown leads, 20-point leads, 5 times have been erased in these NBA playoffs. We've seen multiple 7-point leads be erased in the final minute of games with the Indiana Pacers in Game 5 against Milwaukee, in Game 2 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. What about 2-goal leads so far in this Stanley Cup playoff postseason? Because last night we saw the Edmonton Oilers jump out to a 2-goal lead, and they did not win either.
Yeah, it's the 7th time in this playoffs that we've had a team have a 2-goal lead and then lose the game. And actually, if you look at all 3 games in this Vegas series, at one point, someone's had a 2-goal lead. I think if you go back to the 5-4 overtime game, Vegas had a 2-goal lead. Then Florida went up 4-2 before Vegas came back and tied it, and then eventually lost in overtime. So, yeah, we've joked about it over the years in hockey. that the 2-goal lead is the most dangerous lead that you can have in the NHL.
Yeah, and also, I know it's a super small sample size, but scoring the first goal in the Edmonton VGK series is the kiss of death, apparently, because Vegas was up 2-0 in game one, loses 4-2. They were up 1-0, as you alluded to. Then they were down 3-1 to Edmonton, forced overtime in that one before losing, and then, of course, trailed against the Edmonton Oilers. Then had the lead 3-2. I mean, it was a wild game. By the way, just real quickly on that one, because I want to get to the games today, of course, but anything you could take away from VGK and Edmonton to this point that you're looking to attack moving forward?
I don't think anything. Look, the series have been super close. Look, the last two games decided by a goal. I thought, after Edmonton jumped out 2-0, I thought Vegas did a really good job at shutting the Oilers down. I think it's only the fourth time this year that the Oilers have been held to 20 shots on goal or less. So, I think Vegas did, it was a big turnaround for Vegas. Now, the big question for Vegas, though, Tim, their captain, Mark Stone, left the game in the second period, did not return. That's a pretty significant injury for the Golden Knights. We'll see how that changes going forward. On the Edmonton side, Calvin Pickard, missed game 3, listed as day-to-day. Could he come back and play game 4? We'll see where that goes.
By the way, if you're looking ahead to tomorrow night, how about this? A 7 is out there for a total at Circa and the Westgate Superbook. Vegas and Edmonton, it has been quite the firework type of series so far. And on the flip side, Washington, Carolina, now 5.5 juiced under -20, when yesterday I think it was juiced under -115. Jonathan Davis joining us here, courtesy of our progressive guest line at West Coast Hockey. That's HKY there on social media. Look, the series I said earlier in this hour, JD, that I am most intrigued by, even though Vegas and Edmonton has been phenomenal, is this Winnipeg-Dallas series. We had everything that unfolded with Hellebuck there in the St. Louis series, being pulled 3 times, all on the road. Now he goes on the road today. Jake Ottinger on the flip side, he gets pulled in game 2. So you've got 2 great goaltenders, a little bit shaky at times here throughout this postseason. So how are we looking to attack Winnipeg, Dallas this afternoon in Texas?
Well, Tim, look, I don't want to overthink it. I mean, it's Connor Hellebuck on the road. He's 1-9 in his last 10 road playoff games. The Jets have been outscored or lost by at least 3 goals in 8 of those 9 losses. So for me, I think there's a variety of ways you can attack it. You attack the puck line. I think that's one way. You could do an alternate puck line at -2.5, just based upon what I've told you, with how large a margin they've lost by. Look, the team to score first following losing the previous game has been a big moneymaker this year. I'm just to pull up those numbers again. It's you score the first goal of the next game. It's 30-16 following a loss. Just to score a first period goal, it's 32-14. So you can attack Dallas to score first along with a Dallas money line. That gets you a plus price. You could attack Dallas to score a first period goal and Dallas money line and get a plus price as opposed to just playing Dallas on the money line at about -140. So for me, look, it's all Dallas in this game. Until Connor Hellebuck shows that he can win a game on the road, I just don't see it. And then, look, the propensity to give up at least 5 goals in a game, on the road has been another thing, been an issue for Connor Hellebuck. If you want to play it safe, Tim, you could, BetMGM offers over 3 at about -115. You can take over 3.5 team total for Dallas at plus money as well. So for me, it's all about Dallas and how you want to attack it. I can't find a way to play Winnipeg just based upon their futility on the road in the playoffs.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? That's the old saying. Mikko Rantanen, the dude just scores hat tricks every night, it feels like. So anytime goal market, are you going to be hitting the Mikko Rantanen anytime goal market today?
Yeah, I mean, plus 145, why not? Now, look, the Stars got blanked in their last game, but Mikko Rantanen still has that streak alive of, being, factoring in on 12 consecutive Dallas goals. Let's see if he can get to 13 and beyond in this one here today. He's been, look, Winnipeg, that was the game they had to win, game 2. It was a must-win for them just because the fact they can't win on the road. So, but yeah, for me, I'm back on Rantanen today. Why not at plus 145? It's just a different Dallas team at home who scored 4 or more goals, Tim, in their last 3 home games. They had one of the best home records this year. So there's a lot of signs, again, pointing to the Dallas Stars.
All right, let's get to Florida and Toronto. This is a series where, man, Toronto wins games 1 and 2 north of the border. Plays is going nuts. Have a chance to go up 3-0, lead 2-0. Once again, pointing out 2-goal leads that went away. Lead 3-1, tie it up at 4, and then lose in overtime. Brad Marchand brings out the Rats, right? Throwing the Rats back on the ice. So Brad Marchand, I think you've got an interesting note. Is he gonna be celebrating something today as he takes the ice there against the Toronto Maple Leafs?
It's Brad Marchand's birthday, and Brad Marchand, Tim, has the 4th most career playoff points against the Toronto Maple Leafs for any individual in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I love the Brad Marchand props. You know, it's 12 goals and 21 assists in 31 games for Marchand. So, you know, you can attack both him to score a goal and an assist. You're going to get better money. As long as he hits one of those, it's better than just playing his over half a point prop. Aaron Ekblad, another player for the Florida Panthers. He's got 8 points in 8 career playoff games against Toronto. He's got a point in each of the 2 games that he has played. I like him for a point today. I think you get him at about plus 160. On the Toronto side, a couple of things I would target. Austin Matthews and John Tavares to get at least 3 shots on goal. Put it in a parlay. Matthews has done it in 6 straight and 8 of 9. Tavares has hit 3 shots in 6 of 9 of the playoffs. You parlay them together, you get that at about plus 160 or plus 190. So I like that. And, you know, I'll have a couple more on the write-up later today. But this Toronto series, also the over. I mean, all 3 games have gone over. This is the East version of Vegas and Edmonton.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Quick thought real quickly. Washington, Carolina. Carolina blanks my Caps 4-0 yesterday. My Caps in some trouble here, JD?
Well, I mean, Carolina's been smothering. I think the only way to play this one is, you know, you can play the under, and if you play Freddie Anderson's saves to go under the total, that seems to be, you know, a winning recipe here. The one thing I will jump back on is I'll jump on the Capitals to score first. Again, they lost game 3, so I'll take the team that lost the previous game to score first the next game. You know, it hasn't, you know, yesterday was probably the most dominating performance of the 3 games in many respects. So they're in a bit of trouble, but they're not dead yet, and I would expect a far better performance from them against Carolina in Game 4. But Tim, really quickly, Carolina has, you know, been one of the best home teams in the NHL this year.
Yeah, it was rocking last night. No goals in the first period, 3 straight games. So keep that in mind. The total now juiced under 5.5. JD, always appreciate it, man, and we'll be reading your stuff later today on VSiN.com.
All right, bud. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.
There he is. Jonathan Davis at West Coast Hockey there on the Progressive Guest Line. Hey, just a reminder, over at VSiN.com, you can get JD's write-ups. Also, you can get our exclusive betting splits. Unlike other sources, our betting splits come directly from the sportsbook, Circa and DraftKings. If you want to access those betting splits, you could become a VSiN Pro subscriber for as little as $9.99 for your first month. VSIN.com/subscribe.
You're tuned in to the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.
Yes, indeed. Let's keep it rolling here on a Sunday morning. I'm Tim Murray, live from the Circa Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas. Should we just blindly bet against the Colorado Rockies every day? I guess it's hard to do that when it's so pricey, but you know, if you laid the like alt run line yesterday, you were feeling pretty good as they won 20. Not the Rockies, the Padres won 21-0. I wanted to throw this out there as the Padres take on the Rockies again today. Chris Vanini pointed this out. The 2024 White Sox, who lost a record 121 games, were 11-28 on May 10th. The Rockies are 6-33. I know it's brutal. How about this stat? The Rockies have allowed 55 runs over the last 3 days, the most by any MLB team over a 3-day span since the St. Louis Browns in 1950. Anytime we could use a stat where it incorporates a team that does not exist anymore, I'm all for it. And the Rockies are having a tough time. If you believe in the old buy low spot, ladies and gentlemen, best of luck. You could get the Colorado Rockies today at home at plus 280. So there you go. Rockies and Padres later on this afternoon there in the Mile High City. Speaking of the Mile High City, I imagine it would be tough if you're in Colorado, if you're in Denver today, and it's Mother's Day and you wake up, Mom, what do you want to do today? You're a big Colorado Denver sports fan. Do you want to go to Coors Field and watch the Rockies, who are 6-33 and just lost by 3 touchdowns yesterday? Or do you want to go see Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets? It's a tough decision. I get it. That's a challenge right there. But let's get to some best bets, courtesy of our friends, of course, at G-Bank. All our best bets brought to you by G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. I got 2 bets here for this game, and they both involve a little bit of a fade of the Denver Nuggets. So Oklahoma City to bounce back. You could look at it from a point spread standpoint. You could do what our friend Zachary Cohen did, which was find a dance partner. His dance partner was the Indiana Pacers plus 12.5. So an alt line there for the Indiana Pacers, pushing that up to 12.5. I think the juicy got at minus 115. And then Oklahoma City on the money line. You could do that, or you could do what I did earlier today at DraftKings minus 150. The juice might have moved a little bit here, so keep that in mind. I took the old double result. Oklahoma City to win the first half, to win the full game. I wanted to do it yesterday with Boston, and I just was an idiot. I had to run out of here to a kid baseball game, and I missed the best bet. But I did have the adjusted series price on the Boston Celtics. So I'm going to go in on OKC to be up at the half and also win the game outright. That was minus 150 was the play that I had. And then I know I keep referring to it. Maybe top of the hour, we'll circle back to it. David Adelman there for the Denver Nuggets. But it is a quick turnaround. And when I think to Michael Porter Jr. and how he's played this series, and he's been relatively absent, was relatively absent, let me rephrase that, in games 1 and 2. However, we saw a phenomenal performance from Michael Porter Jr., shooting the ball exceptionally well in game 3. He went off for 20-plus points. He was great. I'm going to go fade Michael Porter Jr. You saw that wrap on the shoulder. You know he's dealing with a shoulder injury. I was listening to Matt Moore, who covers the Denver Nuggets, on his podcast prior to the Game 3 win, and he alluded to the fact that, look, this is a thing that he should be sidelined for a long time. People are giving Michael Porter Jr. some grief for not playing well. It's because this injury is really laboring him and having a hard time kind of lifting his shoulder. He went 5 of 6 from 3 in Game 3. I think we get a little regression from Michael Porter Jr. So under 12.5 points for me. I think the juice I laid was minus 20 on Michael Porter Jr. So double result. OKC wins the first half, wins the full game. I laid $1.50, and then Michael Porter Jr. under 12.5. Those will be my 2 best bets for today. And as always, our best bets brought to you by G-Bank. Get the G-Bank Visa Signature Card today. Most credit cards treat sportsbook and gaming transactions as cash advances. That's even when you put your own money on the card. G-Bank treats gaming transactions as purchases, so you're saving up to 3 to 5% on cash advance fees on gaming transactions right there. Also, with G-Bank, you're earning 1% cashback rewards on eligible sportsbook and gaming transactions and 2% cashback rewards on all eligible purchases. Apply now. VSiN.com/GBank. That's VSIN.com/GBank. Earlier this week, we had Ari Wasserman from On3 on the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast. And speaking of best bets, we saw some line move today. And I'm not saying it was because of what Ari said on our podcast, but I've heard a number of people talk about the number being too long on Clemson. And a respected bettor that I know here in town said he was able to grab Clemson at 20-1 in a number of shops. Ari on the podcast, before he went into a discussion regarding Penn State, which we're going to play you here in just a moment, said 20-1 is way too long for Clemson. And he said he would, I believe the quote was, smash that. And he did. And now Clemson at DraftKings down to 16-1. At FanDuel down to 14-1. So we've seen some movement this week on the national championship market. Clemson moving from 20-1 earlier this week down to 16-1 at DraftKings, 14-1 at FanDuel. But another discussion Ari and I had, and just a reminder, the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast is up and running, ladies and gentlemen. Me and Adam Burke talked our top 12 quarterbacks last week. Ari Wasserman was on this week. We talked Miami, we talked Clemson, and we talked about Penn State. Penn State is a team that brings back, yes, they lost Abdul Carter. They lost Tyler Warren, but they bring back a ton of talent. And I get it. We've all fallen in the trap of Big Game James. And look, I'm pretty happy that Big Game James showed up and Drew Aller threw that interception late against Notre Dame in the Orange Bowl. But this team is absolutely loaded. And I thought Ari Wasserman had a pretty good argument on why you should be believing in the Nittany Lions in 2025.
But Penn State, to me, is the team that I think you could consider ranking number one in the country right now. If you look at what they return, they've got the best running back duo in the country. I know Jeremiah Love is a star. We just got done going over that. But their lines are going to be very good. And they have a quarterback who might be a top 5 pick. The Denai Dennis Sutton's one of the best edge rushers in college football. I don't need to go down their whole roster with you, but like it is impressive to me that they were able to upgrade at their most overt weakness, which is that wide receiver. They had 2 portal additions going into the spring, and they backdoored their way into Trevor Pena from Syracuse, who was one of the leading receiver. I think they're leading receiver in the ACC last year, and that's the one thing that Penn State has kind of lacked. You know what's insane to me? And you were at the Orange Bowl. I know you're a Notre Dame guy. Penn State did not have a receiver catch a pass in that entire game. Like, can you imagine? And they almost won. Like, they were a really good team last year. And I think that the unfortunate reality for James Franklin has been that he is compared constantly head-to-head to Ohio State. And obviously, Penn State pays him and wants to win that game. But, like, judging James Franklin through the lens of Ohio State's not a fair rubric. Like, it's not. And I know that he's lost top 5 games repeatedly and all those things. And people want to be like, well, if it happened all the time in the past, then it's 100% what's going to happen in the future. But that's not the way that the world works. Nothing happens for the first time until it does. And we're not grading and talking in the offseason about a coach and what he's done. What you do is you look at the roster and you pick what you like about it. And then you hope the narrative kind of works its way out. That's why I had Texas going to the playoff 2 years ago, and why I had Notre Dame going to the playoff this year, and Miami I had as a top 10 team going into last year, because look at their players, dude. It's not that hard.
That was Ari Wasserman on 3 Sports. I thought we had a really good conversation this week talking a lot of college football. So check it out, the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast. And I've made my vow, all right? Every week, ladies and gentlemen, you will get a new VSiN College Football Betting Podcast, but you're starting to smell it a little bit coming our way, the college football season. We saw some movement this week in that betting market. Clemson getting banged a little bit from 20-1 down to 14 or 16-1, depending on what national shop you look at. But look, he makes some valid points about Penn State. 1-18, I believe, is the record for James Franklin all time against top 5 teams. Notre Dame was, 7th in the college football playoff, so that did not go against his mark there. They get a week 5 matchup against Oregon coming off a bye. They get Ohio State on the road. Win total sitting at 10.5 for Penn State this year. There's only 4 teams that have win totals of 10.5 in the college football, according to DraftKings, and Penn State is one of them. Notre Dame, Oregon, and Ohio State are the other 3. They're loaded this year. They should be in the playoff like they were a year ago. How much do you trust in Drew Aller? How much do you trust in James Franklin? Tell you what, Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen, as he alluded to, absolute studs in that backfield. College football, baby, can't come soon enough. It is the VSiN Weekend Morning Line.